All right, Havasupai, what a place. This was actually my first time hiking to Havasupai Falls, and it also was my first time hiking in a desert. Now, Havasupai is pretty well known in the US hiking community. I would say not so much yet internationally. I like to talk a little bit about this trip, what and where is Havasupai, how to get a permit to actually visit, what to bring, and then especially how to successfully hike to the falls and back. Havasupai, what is it? It's a Native American land located inside the Grand Canyon. Actually, a few hundred Havasupai people still live at Supai village, and Havasupai itself is probably most famous for that beautiful color turquoise water. Now, the stream contains calcium carbonate, magnesium, and other minerals. They actually settle at the stream floor, and when the sun penetrates that water, that brings out the beautiful blue-greenish color you've seen in the video. Now, at Havasu, you will find several waterfalls, bigger, smaller ones. Now, the 5 main waterfalls are the 50-foot fall, Little Navajo Fall, Havasu Fall, Mooney Fall, and then Beaver Falls. Now, to get to those falls, you have basically 2 options. Number 1 is you hike 10 miles like you see here in the video. Number 2 is you take a helicopter ride to Supai village, right there. From Supai though, you still have to walk another 2 miles to Havasu Fall or to the campground. Now, where is Havasupai? The Havasupai reservation is located west of the Grand Canyon village. If you ever visited the Grand Canyon National Park, you most likely went to the South Rim. The trip, though, it doesn't start at Havasupai. It starts at a small little hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's called the Grand Canyon Cavern Inn on Highway 66. Here is where you check in and get your physical permits the day before your hike. Now, like many famous hikes, the most difficult part about visiting Havasupai is actually getting your permits, especially for a specific date. Now, the permitting process keeps slightly changing. It used to be that on February 1st at 8 a.m. Arizona time, the entire season would go on sale. The season, by the way, begins in February and ends in November. December and January are closed to public. Permits are all for 4 days and 3 nights of camping for $455 in 2024. And the maximum you can have is 12 people on one permit. This year they did a pre-sale, actually, first time. So from January 5th to 18th, you could request 3 different dates for a fee of $15. This did work for some people. They did have a few issues with overbookings, so it may change again next year. Check the official website. I'm going to put the link below. The entire season, it can sell out very, very quick, so you kind of have to be flexible with your dates. Now, if you don't get a permit, it's not the end of the world. Check the cancellation or transfer list. I'm going to put the link below. Now, for your permit, you need to pick a party leader if you're more than one. You also should add an alternate person. I recommend to do that because the party leader needs to pick up the physical permits the day before you hike and show an ID. Now, when you get your permits initially approved online, you also will receive a pretty big email with all the rules and the informations. Make sure you read all that. Now, if camping isn't for you, Supai Village also has a lodge option. This year, 4 days and 3 nights per room for 4 people was priced at $2,277. Remember though, the lodge is at the village, so it's about a 2-mile trip to the first big Havasu waterfall or to the campground. The day before your hike, again, the party leader needs to pick up your permits. You also pick up some tags you put on your tent or on your bag. Those tags have different colors every day. You're going to figure that out while you're at the campground. That's also a good time when you check in to ask about when the checkpoint is open, any questions you may have about the hike. They're really helpful there. Now, if you don't want or can't carry all your stuff, there is a pack mule option to carry the bags from the top to the campground. This year they charged $400 for 4 bags round trip. The bags can be 32 pounds. Check the size requirements, it's all on their website. If you do use that service, I recommend to have some kind of a cover bag. Those pack mules, they sweat and the bag can smell pretty bad. I use those IKEA bags. I have a link below of that too. Okay, now looking at this map here quick. Here's the Grand Canyon Cavern Inn. That's where you have to check in. It's about 3 hours from Vegas. Vegas right over here. 3.5 from Phoenix. 2 hours from Flagstaff. Here is Supai. Here is Hilltop. That's where the hike begins. Just short of the Hilltop is actually the checkpoint where they check your permit, your wristbands. And there is not many options to stay the night before. I stayed at the Grand Canyon Cavern Inn. It's an older hotel. My room had a refrigerator, microwave. Everything was clean. No problem. Remember though, especially if you do this during the summer, lots of hikers get up to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So you may not sleep too long out there. The only other option close by to stay here is at Peach Spring. There you find the Havasupai Lodge. I drove by there too. What I like, it's maybe a little bit newer. They also do have a gas station right across the street, and that's an important thing. You want to make sure you have a pretty full tank before you start your drive out. Here is the road to Hilltop where the hike begins. Took me almost an hour and a half in the dark on the way back, so you're gonna need fuel for that. There is no service anywhere in between. Also, when you drive there at night, make sure you watch out for animals on the road. Now, in the old days, you could actually spend the night at the hilltop there at the starting point of the hike. That's no longer allowed. So now it's your hiking day. Again, first you have to drive those 65 miles to the starting point hilltop. Myself, in the summer, I started at 2 a.m. When you get to the checkpoint, they will check your permit. Make sure everybody has their wristbands on. They can check your car too. Make sure you follow the rules, no drones. Pretty shortly after the checkpoint, you're gonna get to the end of the road where you find here the parking lot. There's a restroom out there, ranger station. Here is a shed for the mules. A few parking spots here. Down here, this is locals only parking. So if you come here on a busy day like I did, you're gonna have to park along the road here on the side. I was way up here. Be careful, sometimes there's rocks coming down. Maybe a little bit of a risk. I didn't have any issues with that though. So here from the parking, that's where the hike begins. Everything easy to find, there's signs. And as you can see here initially, it gets pretty steep. Exactly here is the zigzagging trail is here. And then you follow here this ridge line down to the bottom of the canyon, still kind of steep. But then when you get down here, it gets pretty flat. It's just like a slow descent from here on. Actually all the way down to Supai village here. It's over here, Supai. And as you can see, you're inside this canyon. So once a while you may see like 2 trails, but doesn't really matter which one you take. It brings you to the same spot. And then down here, that's where the intersection is with the big sign. And then shortly after, you go across the bridge and you get into Supai village. And then the campground, another 2 miles. Down here, that's where Havasupai Falls is. This section, it's a little bit more sandy, a little bit more harder to walk. And again, not much shade at all. And then after the fried bread stand, which is here, it's a kind of a steep descent to Havasupai Falls. Now, as for the hike, it's a total of 10 miles from hilltop all the way down to the campground, and you're gonna lose about 2,000 feet of elevation. Make sure you're ready. It's not a super hard hike, but it's also not easy. And what makes it hard during the summer especially is the heat. Do not underestimate the heat, especially going up. Even though you're kind of hiking mostly inside the canyon, there is still lots of sun exposure, not much shade at all. That's why during the summer again, many start in the middle of the night to hike in or out. Now another important thing for the hike is there is no water anywhere on those 10 miles. So make sure you bring plenty of liquids, electrolytes, I highly recommend. And again, the way up is definitely harder than coming down. As for animals, no pets are allowed. And the reason is pretty simple. The pack mules go up and down all day, and they're sometimes also followed by dogs. So you can't bring any pets on this hike. Now, as for those mules, you definitely will encounter them. They do walk independent sometimes. The guide may be way behind them on a horse. So make sure you get out of the way. They are just like a train. They just keep going. And they definitely know the trail. Now, as for finding the way, I didn't think it was difficult. I downloaded the map from AllTrails. I'm going to put a link below. But a good indication is if you don't see mule poop for a few minutes, you're probably off trail. Maybe at night when you leave and you start early morning, when you walk through the village, make sure you follow the signs. They have signs like wrong way here, wrong way here. But then as soon as you're in the canyon, there is basically just one way up. So after 8 miles, you finally will enter the village. Remember, no videos, no pictures allowed. This isn't Disneyland. Then you get here to the center. Right here is the center, and it's easy recognizable. Here are the 2 helipads. The tourist center is here. The store is right here. Don't do what I do. Don't walk in there with your backpack on. They don't like that. The coffee is across the street. When I was there, they still had a mask requirement for that. If you do stay at the lodge, it's right over here. So it's all really, really central. Then the trail, again, there is signs. Goes then down here and then all the way down 2 more miles to the campground. As for the store hours can be flexible sometimes. They do have basic supplies. The prices are actually not bad at all. Remember, they have to fly everything in there or carry on the mules. There is no roads going into Supai village. They also have a public or 2 public microwaves you can use. Now from the village you have 2 more miles to get to the beginning of the campground. On the way you will pass Little Navajo Fall, which you can see from the trail. 50-foot fall is right behind that. That's a little bit harder to find. Then you cross the newly opened bridge. Next you will arrive at the fry bread stand. They do have cold sodas for sale there. That's a great thing when you arrive in the heat. And then it's a kind of a steep downhill to the bottom of Havasupai Falls, and that's where you then enter the campground. Now as you enter the campground, you will see the ranger station on your left. I think there is somebody supposed to be there 24/7. So a very common question about Havasu is the campground. What's the best campsite? And I would say it depends. It all depends what's important for you. Here's kind of an overview over the campground. It begins just below Havasupai Falls where the ranger station is, and it goes all the way down to Mooney, to the top of Mooney Falls. So this is like almost 1 mile. You see here the 4 toilet locations they do have. Initially, all the campsites are kind of the trail side of the stream. And then later on, you have some islands where you can camp in between. And then further down the stream, there is some on the opposite side too. If you plan on going late summer, like July, August, just remember they can have flash flooding down there. So think about that too when you pick your campsite. When I was there, this side here was very popular, just below the cliff here. They had the most shade. Again, myself, I stayed very close to the ranger station here at the beginning. It's close to Havasupai Falls, where most people like to hang out. And in my case, it was the closest to the fried bread stand. That's where I spent, I think, every lunchtime. It's also obviously closer to get quick up to the village if you want to go to the store or the cafe. Many like the lower part. I would say the advantage of that, it's more, you have more privacy, it's more quiet. The problem staying here in the upper portion of the campground, especially during the summer, because of the heat, so many leave like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So while you still have 2 nights or so, now you have every morning people packing up their tent next to you, and they walk like right next to you, and some unfortunately are not too quiet about that. Now, if you don't like your campsite for the first night, remember you can change anytime. Those tags everybody has to put on their tents, remember they have different colors for every day, so you can kind of tell who is leaving, or you can ask what color is leaving the next day. You can kind of spot what campsite you're going to prefer and switch the next day, no problem with that. As for food, I got myself one of those red sacks, which many do recommend. In my experience, it may be seasonal, it was actually not bad at all. I ended up just hanging my backpack, the whole thing, out on a tree. I had no issues. Just make sure you don't leave any food inside your tent or inside your backpack on the ground. Many campsites do have picnic tables, not all of them. Again, my first day was so busy, I didn't have a table too, but it was not a big issue. Now, as for those famous waterfalls, again, Little Navajo Fall here, you're gonna see on the trail. You walk by that, 50 foot. It's a little bit tricky to find, and you're gonna have to hike through some waist deep water. It's a good swimming spot to 50 foot, I would say. As for Havasu Fall, again, this is kind of the main hangout. It can get a little bit busy here sometimes. It's basically almost inside the campground. Also, many visitors from the lodge just walk down here and spend like the whole day at the fall. It's not bad for swimming. The water though is pretty cold even during the summer, which can be a good thing too. Now next then we have Mooney Falls at the bottom of the campground. You actually may see some tents just up here on top, still camping. The fall is obviously kind of famous for the 200-foot cliff you have to climb down. Now if you're scared of heights, I do not recommend to try that. You don't have to go down to see the fall. I actually took this picture from the top. But it's definitely a neat experience to go through those tunnels. And then at the bottom you get to that ladder section, which is always slippery and wet, and that's just because of the spray from the waterfall. It's so strong. The fall itself, it's not a great swimming spot. The water, because of that strong fall here, it's kind of rough down there. You will get wet for sure. Even on a hot day, the spray just blows all the water right over this ladder section. So be careful with any kind of electronics, cameras. There is also a good chance you may be stalked. People do panic and they just stop. I had two girls in front of me at one time, and they just stopped for 10 minutes, and everybody was waiting, going up or down. And then they decided to turn around and return, which is nothing wrong with that. If you decide to go down, just take it easy, take it slow. Keep 3 points at the ladder, at the rocks at all time, and you should be fine. The next down the canyon is Beaver Falls. Beaver Falls, do not underestimate the trail to get to it. It's 3 miles one way. If you go midsummer, again, bring plenty of water. I kind of was short too a little bit. I would even bring a water filter next time. Sometimes there is kind of several trails, maybe a little bit confusing, but normally you find your way easy. You have to cross the stream 3 times. You may even see some bighorn sheep. Now, last but not least is the hike down to the confluence. So you would hike all the way down the canyon to the Colorado River. Now, this is an extreme serious hike. It's 18 miles round trip. If you're planning to do that, make sure you're in good physical condition. Make sure you have plenty of water. You must have a water filter. If you do go during the summer, start extremely early. I highly recommend that. When I was there, they actually had to rescue a guy. He was totally dehydrated, was totally out of water on the way back up. Now to finish up, some of my recommendations, what I learned here on this trip. Number 1, food. I had way too much, but that was because I spent most every day at the fry bread stand. One day I went up to the store as well. If you don't like doing this, you have to bring everything you need. Okay, should you bring water shoes? Common question. I did, and I was glad I did. I even brought neoprene socks, and they helped me the most to hike down to Beaver Falls. Remember, you have to cross the stream 3 times one way. If you do not bring water shoes, make sure you test your hiking shoes with socks and you make them wet, walk through some streams. Just make sure you don't pick up any blisters, which many hikers did here on this especially Beaver Falls trail. Next is the pack mule service, should you use it. Again, it depends on your physical conditions, especially going up the canyon. You have to be pretty strong to carry all your equipment. So it's up to you. If you do use the pack mule service, again, it's $400 for 4 bags round trip. I recommend you bring a hemlock if you start early morning, because normally the pack mules, they arrive around noon and you may be at the campground by 9 o'clock already. So you can pick your spot, relax a little bit and then pick up your bags later. Now, as for the helicopter, should you use that? The first thing you need to know is the helicopter doesn't fly every day. So make sure you check your permit dates, the in and out date, and make sure that matches with the helicopter flight schedule. Also, the helicopter has a policy that locals and supply always comes first. So you may hike up to the village like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you have to wait till 4 o'clock till you finally get a ride out. Or you may not even get a ride out and then you still have to hike out. So I leave that up to you. And yes, the helicopter only flies to the village. So either way, you're going to have to hike the last 2 miles or 2.5 miles to the campground. Next is bring cash. Yes, the credit card was working when I was there, but it's always good to have extra cash. Again, maybe for the helicopter ride. As for bugs, I was there beginning of June. I had no issues at all. I'm not sure if that is seasonal.
Havasupai Falls area of Arizona, and a Utah was there to capture it all. Yeah, tonight he spoke with News Specialist Andrew Adams while preparing to evacuate. Andrew?
Now, this is actually me from the future. I did upload this video last week to YouTube, and just as I planned to post it, I did hear the first report about the tragic flash flood they had at the Havasupai Canyon. At this point, I also like to express my condolence to the family which lost a family member in the canyon due to the flash flood. Now, first off, general weather. I said it before, especially if you do go during the summer months, make sure you check the temperatures. People have died because of heat exhaustion. Just hiking in 110 degrees makes it 2 times harder than when you have a cool, windy day, and that's kind of the same here in Hawaii. Flash floodings, why are they so dangerous? I would say the #1 reason is they're unpredictable. Hardly ever you will see on the weather forecast saying, okay, tomorrow 4 o'clock expect flash flooding. Unfortunately, they do happen certainly, and they do happen very, very quick. I can kind of show you this here on an example from here in Hawaii. This is on Maui. You can see from on a standard day, it's just a light little drizzle. And obviously up the mountain or the upper level, there is much heavy rain, which you don't notice. And that small little stream changes within a few seconds, really, from a small little trickle to an unpassable river. And unfortunately, this is what happened to the people here at the Havasupai the other week. Now, in general, most common flash floodings are during the monsoon season, mid-June through September. But that doesn't mean that can happen any time of year, really. It can happen in March or May, and has happened before. Again, it's just unpredictable. Now the question is, what can you do if you got caught in a flash flood? And the #1 thing to do is obviously get to higher ground. If you know where high ground is, obviously you go to that spot. If you don't, if you like, let's say in a narrow canyon, go downstream, because it may give you an extra few seconds before the high water level hits you, and find higher ground as quick as possible and stay there and stay put. Don't try to cross the stream. Again, those flash floods, they normally carry lots of debris, and you may get just knocked off your feet when you try to cross. Those flash floods, they normally don't last for like days, they last for a few hours. So if you have to spend a night out there in the middle of nowhere, so what, especially like Havasupai in the summer, even if you don't have any equipment with you, you're not going to die. It doesn't get too cold. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but better be safe than sorry. Now, what can you do about being caught in a flash flood? You also want to have some equipment with you. Again, first thing, get to higher ground. And again, you may have to spend a few hours, maybe a night. So you always want to carry some equipment, like your emergency kit, small one. Even for day hikes, you're heading down to Beaver or the Confluence. Get yourself one of those emergency blankets, or nowadays, even better, one of those emergency BVs. They don't weigh anything. And as you can see, this one is in the orange color. That also will help you. Let's say on the next day, you want to flag down a helicopter. You want to have colors like this. And that's basically the same if you get yourself a rain jacket, which also should be in your day pack. Make sure it's a bright color like orange, like yellow. So you can flag down search and rescue. Myself, I'm a helicopter pilot too. And I can tell you nothing harder than finding people on the ground, especially in an environment like Havasupai. So having bright colors, even your space blanket may be good to wave down emergency, or a signal mirror is good to have as well. Then one thing I always carry is one of those emergency GPS messengers. This is the Solio. Many carry the Garmin InReach, but I'm hearing already reports that here at Havasupai Canyon, many InReachs also didn't catch the signal because you're right in the deep canyon next to those deep walls, which the GPS signal doesn't like. So you may get lucky or not to catch somebody with the GPS messenger. Now as for gear, you obviously want to go lightweight as possible. Do not overpack. Again, I had way too much food. Decide between a tent or a hammock. Make sure though you don't make this the first multiple day camping trip. Make sure you test your equipment. If you use a hammock, make sure you sleep a night or so somewhere. Then I definitely would bring a water filter, especially if you head down to Beaver. Blister tape is a must-have. I'm actually gonna link all my gear I brought below the video. Oh, one more thing for the hike out. During the hot summer months, if you leave like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, please consider the other campers and especially the people living at Supai village. Remember, they have hikers walking through the village all night long, in and out. So try to be as quiet as possible. If your headlamp has a red light, use that. You may run into some dogs. Please be respectful. Now, last but not least is trash. I actually got a little bit upset about that. A group camped next to me. They left like 2 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up 6 o'clock, I noticed they left some of their hiking shoes, their stove, gloves, just all kinds of stuff, leftover food. Nobody wants to clean up your stuff down there, so please pack everything you bring. Pack it out. Just common sense if you visit a place like that. As for resources, there is plenty of websites, YouTube videos. Make sure that you keep updated, since especially the permitting process keeps changing a little bit. The best thing is to go just on the official website. Remember, the link is right below. There is also several Facebook groups. There is one pretty good one that keeps kind of the latest news on it. I'm going to link that below too. And then finally, enjoy this very, very special place. If you have a chance to visit, please respect it as well. Respect the people. That's their land. We're just visitors there, and have a good time. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. Helps me out too. And then I'll see you on the next time. Thanks for watching. Aloha.